It can be difficult to know how to effectively discipline your child. Will it actually make a difference? Am I being cruel? What is most effective? It can be a minefield. In this video, I want to share some insights from my career as a clinical psychologist specializing in children and adolescents. We're going to look at how to best discipline children and take a look at what actually works. So let's get started. When we think of the word discipline, it usually implies some sort of external punishment we give to our kids when they do something that we don't want them to do. I do think there are some ways you can discipline that will be more effective than others. So let me outline a few of these here, and then I want to talk about a completely different way of discipline that you may have never thought about. When disciplining, I think there are three things that you can do that will really help. Number one, be neutral. Develop the skill of being firm but neutral, meaning you use a neutral tone of voice. Once you start yelling, now your kids are going to pay attention to you and you're yelling and not the behavior that you're actually yelling about. So being neutral, or I think of it sometimes like being business-like, that sort of demonstrates that you mean business and your focus is on the desired behavior. Now this is hard to do when emotions run high, but I think it's a really critical skill to learn. Number two, discipline with empathy. I believe empathy and discipline can and should coexist. It just means that you set boundaries while being neutral and empathetic for the consequences. In a sense, you are commiserating with your kids when they're about to suffer. And even if you're the one that's about to cause the suffering, we don't want to rescue our kids from consequences, but we can commiserate with them. Like you could say, "Oh, Sarah, I hate that you have to miss that. There's nothing I want more than for you to go out with your friends. I wish you had done your report earlier. I really do." That's commiserating with her. Before we move on to the next points, I want to thank you for watching this video. Are you struggling to communicate with your child or to discipline them effectively? You know, none of us are handed a manual when our kids are born with all the rules and steps that we should take. We learn by trial and error. That's why I've created this channel. It's about using my system of correcting and connecting to build a strong, trusting, and influential relationship with your child. If that's the kind of thing you want to know more about, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share this with your friends. Now, let's get back to the video. Number three, I want you to recognize what noise is. Noise is anything that is meant to distract you in the moment. So for example, when your kid asks you the why questions in response to some consequence, he's not really asking you why. And when you answer the why, he's now working on wearing you down. Kids are expert at the practice of engaging parents in meaningless arguments and discussions, requiring us to give them reasons for everything that we do. And so when we fall into this trap, thinking that by being reasonable, by giving logical explanations, they're going to understand all of a sudden, and then they'll want to comply. I would actually say that you should never answer the why question more than once. Just think of it as noise and don't engage in that conversation. Okay, now that we've talked about a few things that will help when you have to discipline, let me suggest a completely different kind of discipline that you may have never considered. This is discipline that comes from within the child and not externally imposed by you. So let me share with you a story. When my daughter was 7 years old, I was faced with a situation that was so frustrating. I had just come home from a long day at work and I was exhausted. And my wife quickly recounted a problem that Jessica had had that day. And she informed me that I was going to be the one to deal with it. And so Valerie had gotten this call that afternoon from the school informing her that Jessica had kicked one of her peers in the face during recess. Let me tell you a few things about Jessica. She is and always has been extremely independent and capable. This is a trait that I love about her, and it is a trait that I have always struggled with her. This phone call from her school certainly was not the first time we had heard from them. In fact, it was starting to become a pattern. So here I'm coming home from work that day, and I was in no mood to be gentle with her. I was very frustrated with her. But I will tell you that my past efforts at helping her with these kinds of problems, they always included me trying to lecture her, bribe her, threaten her, yell at her, plead with her. I was grounding her, any of those kinds of methods, but nothing was working. I didn't know what else to do. So this time, I chose a different path. The first thing I did was I sat down with Jessica, and in a very neutral manner, I asked her to describe for me what had happened that day in school. She was initially very defensive. She literally said, "Well, you already know because mom told you," which I didn't really love that response. But I was determined to stay neutral. So I persisted, asking only for a description of what happened. I was trying to be like a reporter, just gathering the facts. And I was specifically not judging and not criticizing. I was only asking for a description of what happened. I was fact-finding. Well, because I succeeded in staying neutral, which was hard, I was also being non-persuasive. I was being non-judgmental. And she kind of caught on to the fact that this was not going to be our typical adversarial conversation. So at that point, she actually opened up to me, and she did give me a clear description of what happened. She told me this boy was teasing her friend, and she decided she was going to kick him in the face to get him to stop. And it worked. So I asked her a few more questions. She made some clarifications, and we were both actually very relaxed. Then after we talked for a while, I asked her another question. And now my goal at this point was to ask her about feelings. Remember, we're doing this from the inside out. But I wasn't just asking about any feelings. I wanted to specifically ask her how she felt about herself. So my question went something like this. I said, "So Jessica, what you're saying to me is that when you get upset at other people, you feel like it's okay to hurt them. Is that right?" And she didn't like hearing it that way. So she denied that. She denied that it was okay to hurt people. So then I went back to sort of fact-finding mode, and I was just asking for descriptions of her behavior. Then I came back with this very similar question. When you're upset with someone, you feel like it's okay to hurt them. And she denied it again. And then I asked one really simple question. I said, "Is this the kind of kid that you want to be?" Well, her response blew me away. There were instant tears running down her face. I was stunned by this. As we talked more, she admitted to me that she didn't want to be the kind of person that hurt others whenever she was angry. The beauty of this experience is that Jessica was able to experience her own feelings of disappointment in herself. This was unlike all the other times I had my discussions with her, where the only thing that she would feel was disappointment from me. Now she's feeling it from within herself. I believe that by experiencing her own feelings of self-disapproval, that made her naturally want to change. Now, when I share this story with parents, I'm often asked what I did next. What discipline did I impose? I didn't do anything next, because what else was there to do? I didn't need to give her punishment because the punishment was already coming from within her. Any time we can turn kids inward and recognize their own approval for behaviors that they feel good about, or help them recognize their own disapproval for negative behaviors, that's the ideal. Because this means that they can and they will self-correct. I don't think you can improve on that. I believe that this is such an important principle that I've actually put together a free 4-part webinar that will teach you how to do this very thing. I will go into detail and give you practical steps that will allow you to begin parenting your children from the inside out. Are you looking for a more effective way to connect with your child and build long-term positive influence? Maybe your child is misbehaving or going through a difficult phase and you struggle to know how to discipline them, or even sometimes how to reach them at all. My name is Dr. Todd Corelli, and I've spent the last 25 years as a clinical psychologist working primarily with children, adolescents, young adults, and families. I have worked with thousands of families around the world, and I've seen the challenges facing families today. That's why I've created this 4-part video series that is completely free to watch and available for you immediately. This helps parents become much more effective at bonding with and positively influencing their kids. This system is completely unique and highly effective. I have seen this system benefit my own family and so many others, and I want your family to have this too. So just go to the link in the video description below, or you can go to correctandconnect.com, enter your details, click the button, and I'll send it over to you immediately.